Hey, welcome along to Top Shelf Tech for our August security brief in conjunction with ZX Security. And we've got Ian White from ZX Security with us again today. Ian, welcome along.
Hey mate, how are you getting on this month?
We're good, thanks. Keeping pretty busy. And how are you guys?
Yeah, hectic man. It hasn't stopped really. Just kept going, which is really good. Very fortuitous position to be in at the moment.
Awesome, yeah, plenty happening in the security world, right? And that's probably only sometimes the stuff that we get to read about.
Yeah, for sure. It's always scratching the surface, which is I think it's a good and a bad thing, depending on what side of the coin you're on.
Cool. So to get under the surface a little bit more, firstly today, I just wanted to talk to you about the LPM property management hack. This one, made a considerable amount of news. It got quite a lot of coverage. The personal records of clients being shared through an open public cloud bucket. What can you tell us about this hack?
Yeah, to not really go into the detail of the hack itself, more talking, I want to talk about kind of the misconception, the misrepresentation of kind of whether it's Amazon and Azure and whether you get into cloud computing as a business. A lot of people have the misunderstanding that once you go with Azure or if you go with Amazon, your stuff is safe and away you go. But it's all about the implementation of it and how it's actually configured correctly. And with that actually means security. That means that everything's not just working and it's going well. It also means that the security itself is set specifically for your needs. And this, just from my view of reading the stories, not knowing about the actual specific incident itself, it just seems again like an S3 bucket was open, which is again, what we just spoke about is just so common these days, because again, people just want the stuff working and they haven't configured it correctly to have the security mindset.
The thing that I probably found unsurprising but unimpressive with this is the way it was reported, that it sounded like a sophisticated hack, where I'd describe it as more, somebody driving down the road to look to see if anybody had left their front door open, and if they had, whipping in to nick their jewellery. And, to your point, the stuff is plenty configurable, and there's plenty of tools out there as well to tell you if you've got these insecurities. It comes down to really implementation, doesn't it?
You're 100% right with that analogy, because most of the things that you see in the news these days, a lot of it would be curated or would be written by people either just for clicks or not understanding exactly how hacking works. And a lot of it isn't targeted. The majority of it probably isn't targeted. And again, why would someone want to target this specific entity? Probably not. It's just, again, a configuration issue, and someone's not taking advantage of it, but someone's exposed it.
So for the clients whose passports have potentially been leaked, what would be the risk for them now? Passport obviously doesn't give you access to any money or anything like that. So what is it from a personal identity perspective? What could be done with that data?
Oh, well, there's numerous things, from selling passports on the dark web to taking that information and then seeing exactly where it could fit and what verifications you could get past as well to use that information, whether it be to try and get into their financials or anything like that. But it's definitely a big tick to compromising someone furthermore, for sure.
Cool. Another one that's been really topical and is a couple of very big, very public social media security things. Again, one of them, Twitter being a hack, and then TikTok, of course, very controversial. Twitter, what can you tell us about that and what went on there?
So again, just to get the full story, I spoke to one of the guys that works for me just prior to jumping on, and from what I understand, effectively, someone, actually a 17-year-old, if I've been told correctly, managed to compromise a Twitter employee and then phish his 2FA token to then get into the internal network and wreak havoc. It's not a common thing, but it's definitely obviously possible. But like, the advice that I'd give to people that work in certain roles is, again, understanding what your risk profile is. If you're working for Twitter and you're working within a department or within an area that has access to certain sensitive information, you've definitely got to make sure that your passwords are long and strong. And then not that you're just having 2FA, whether it be a code-generated one, but making sure that you have even a physical 2FA token, like a YubiKey or something like that, because definitely that stage of 2FA compromise is much harder than just a code-generated one.
And from a social engineering perspective, how much activity would you see sort of with people trying to compromise through through people, through the human elements, rather than through the stuff we discussed before, technology, scanning, those kind of broad brush.
In New Zealand, we'd see a lot of see a lot of email compromising, a lot of phishing compromising from that social engineering aspect. There definitely is the physical type of social engineering for sure. But New Zealand as a whole, from a maturity point of view, isn't either at that stage, or a lot of the businesses themselves, the reward for attacking them with that type of vector isn't really there yet. There's not enough businesses, or there is, but not enough risk appetite to probably go that direction. It's much easier to sit at home and try and phish someone than it is to physically try and do something. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. TikTok. Now, we've been told MPs may need to remove their TikTok from their phones. We've heard Microsoft may need to take over the operations in the US to prevent it potentially being banned. How big of a risk do you see social media services like TikTok? What is the risk of exposure, and why would MPs be told that they have to remove it from their devices?
Yeah, it's a great question. And again, you could go down the whole geopolitical role, and again, we could talk here for weeks about it. But again, it's understanding from first of all, from just a general user, again, what your risk profile is. If you're just a general individual and then you either have no risk appetite, or if someone wants to attack you, there's nothing that they could gain from you that they could use to coerce against you for some means, then having TikTok doesn't really make a difference, to be honest. But again, if you're within Parliament, I probably would lean on the side of potentially not having those Chinese-based applications on your phone. That would be primarily due to the 2017 Cybersecurity Law Act based out of China, which kind of at a high level suggests that if you have an entity that's based in China but sells products, applications outside China, effectively someone from the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, can take information. But again, that only goes so far, because if it's a Microsoft or if it's whatever based application based out of the United States, they also have similar laws as well too, that they can do similar things. So again, it's picking your poison, I suppose. Yeah, that's the best way that I would explain it.
So geopolitical, are we playing the man more than we're playing the bull here?
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting one, to be honest. And again, you could talk about it for absolutely ever, but I would really just kind of go back to trying to understand what your risk profile is as a person, and again, understanding not just what your risk profile is, but understanding exactly like why as well too. There's a big, a lot of people just think I don't want TikTok because of this, but like, do you even need TikTok anyway? Like why do you even need TikTok?
So you're not filming 30-second dances on it yourself?
Mate, if you saw me dance, you'd laugh. So well, no, not a chance.
So finally on that one, social media advice for businesses. How do you limit your risk? How do you, if these things will keep coming, how do you prevent them from being big issues and impacting your business?
Yeah, if it's a data thing, it's understanding what data that you have on your social medias, that if your accounts were to be compromised, what could be taken, or what is sensitive that could either be used against you competitively, or not, so just taken out for a bad news day. And then if it's for the customers, or sorry, for your employees, it's and they're using social media accounts, whatever it may be. It's understanding that when they use social media, they're representing themselves, but they're also representing their company as well too. So making sure that there's some level of sanity as well too, or sanitization about what people are posting.
Yeah. I there's obviously there's the security side. What data do you have there? And then there's also just that to your point, that piece around what do you want people in your company representing your brand as on social media.
Yeah.
This week also, I think it was just over the last week, New Zealand has been labelled a soft target for hackers by one security expert. Who suggested that as a nation, as a people, we're too trusting, and that allowed New Zealand to be compromised, potentially not even for access to our data or our systems, but more as a point to bounce in and then compromise other systems. What is your take on New Zealand as an organisation? You guys obviously work in New Zealand, you work offshore. Are we too trusting? Are we an easy target? Are we getting picked off and then being used to compromise other people's systems?
Yeah, again, if you were to use as a kind of a litmus test of the whole country, New Zealand definitely is a high trust society. But again, there is certain organisations that have higher security posture than others. I did listen to the interview that the security expert did speak, and I do agree with a lot of his points. There is some that I would question around the difference between correlation and causation for sure, because yeah, there's some that I probably would disagree with, but a lot of his points are extremely valid for sure.
Can you give us an example of each one that you think you'd absolutely agree with, and one that you think we may be getting a bit wrong?
The ones that I do agree with is how easy it is to compromise someone from looking via their social media, because a lot of people do have their cat's name as their passwords or their mother's maiden name as their password. So it takes me 2 seconds to find what that is via social media. And the ones that I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was something he had said during the talk that I said I think that's a correlation versus a causation. I can't remember exactly what it is, but yeah.
Yeah, cool. Look, Ian, thanks again for joining us this week. Really interesting talking to you, and we'll catch you again in a month.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Very good to be on again, and thanks very much.
Cheers. Thanks, everybody, for joining us as well.
Bye.